I always knew you were just another rich girl.
Hi everyone, it's Charlie. We're getting ready for Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 2. I got a lot of questions after Episode 1 about Arya Stark's special weapon that she's having Gendry make for her, so I'll explain what it's for, why she's using this instead of just using her regular weapons. She's already got the Valyrian Dagger, they have all the Dragonglass in the world that she could want. Why would she need a new weapon? There's actually a really special reason for that. What's going on between the two of them in terms of their relationship now that they're back together, and what's going on with Gendry in terms of endgame, because he does have a claim to the Iron Throne through Robert Baratheon. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the Game of Thrones videos. Obviously episode 2 is happening tonight. I'll do a separate video for that once it airs. We're still doing the HBO Now giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on the video. Obviously careful for spoilers from everything that happened during episode 1. But you look at the diagram Arya Stark drew for Gendry, it's not just a schematic, it also tells you about the special mechanical properties that the weapon has. It's a multi-function weapon designed to suit her combat style. So within the world of Game of Thrones, Arya Stark knows what her limitations are, what her abilities are, her assassin-like skills, her small stature, so she's very shrewdly designing a weapon to maximize her effectiveness during this big Battle of Winterfell that we're getting ready for. You look at her, she's tiny compared to the Whites and White Walkers, but as we saw from her fight with Brienne of Tarth during Season 7, Episode 4, she can still hold her own under a lot of circumstances, even if Brienne wasn't really going 100% against her the whole time. As cool as that fight was, you have to think about this from Brienne's perspective. She's used to training people like Pod, and she looks at Arya like she's the daughter of the person that she swore to serve, so it's not like Brienne is going to try to kill the sister of her Lady Sansa she's sworn to protect. But from a practical standpoint, the show has a problem to solve with her character. So they want to give everybody amazing scenes during Season 8 if Arya has been training this whole time to become one of the greatest assassins in the world. They want to write scenes for her, fight scenes in particular, that will help show that off. So 1, they want Arya to participate in the Battle of Winterfell in a really big way. 2, have really cool fight scenes that showcase those specific assassin-like fighting skills. And 3, let her take advantage of the really cool Valyrian Dagger that she now has and the new cool Dragonglass weapons that Gendry is custom making for everyone, and give her really cool reunion moments with him. So even though Needle is a very special weapon to her and she has stuck a few pigs with it, under the current circumstances, her pig sticker isn't going to be that useful trying to stick White Walker pigs. Thus, the show had Arya come up with an idea for a new weapon to use that would allow her to do all these really cool things without having to switch weapons mid-fight like she did with Brienne. So like say she's in the middle of the Battle of Winterfell, she wouldn't have to drop a Dragonglass weapon just so she could use the Valyrian Dagger. And the dagger itself is also limited in the way you use it too, because you can either throw it at someone, but then you obviously have to run to go grab it out of whatever White Walker or White you threw it at, and 2, if you're not throwing it at them, you have to get really close within range of their arms, and it's just really easy to get dogpiled under those circumstances, especially if you're as small as someone like Arya. That is why you look at this weapon here, and it lets you know that she's going to be going full Darth Maul double-bladed lightsaber during the Battle of Winterfell. Look at the weapon schematic. It starts as this long pole arm, one end clearly marked as Dragonglass. The other end I wasn't so sure about the first time I watched the episode, but I do believe they're trying to say that both ends are tipped with Dragonglass. There was a brief period where I thought she might have Gendry refashion the Valyrian Dagger and just use it for one of the ends of the spear, but now it seems like she's using it as her backup option, so that she still doesn't have to get up really close to White Walkers when she's fighting, but she can use the Valyrian Dagger as a measure of last resort. Maybe it's been a little while, maybe you remember it perfectly, but that Darth Maul fight where he's fighting with his double-bladed lightsaber and then breaks it apart to dual wield, you have a pretty good idea for how Arya is probably going to be using this weapon, because it's designed so that she can detach one end from the other and dual wield with it. You think back to episode 1 now and all those reunion scenes, that's probably why they had that special Valyrian sword moment during her reunion scene with Jon Snow in the Godswood. He's all excited to show her his brand new Valyrian steel sword, Longclaw. Look at this, it's a Valyrian steel sword. Could you believe anything is so cool? She smiles and talks about how cool it is, not telling him about the Valyrian steel dagger for some reason, but Arya says very specifically, it's too heavy for me, talking about a traditional sword, and at the time it didn't seem like that big of a deal, but now we know they were just foreshadowing her designing a really lightweight weapon that will allow her to use her really cool skills, but also use her Valyrian dagger if she really needed to. There's also a very practical reason from a battle standpoint for having it start out as a long pole arm, because she could just dual wield the whole time. The long tip-to-end nature of the pole arm weapon when both ends are attached, like you see here during the Season 8 trailers when she's twirling it around using it up on the battlements, is that she can use its length to avoid having to get within range of being touched by the Whites and White Walkers. So she avoids being dogpiled immediately because it's pretty clear that they make it over the walls of Winterfell. But because both ends are tipped, even when the weapon is still in pole form, she can twirl it around like this and attack Whites behind her and in front of her without having to swing the weapon around each time. It's much more efficient. Gendry chuckled a little bit when she was explaining it because he was still being playful. He doesn't understand the faceless man Arya of it all. He's still thinking of her the last time that they were together. That was why he was referencing all those lines of dialogue from season 3, my lady, and he started calling her a rich bitch, just joking a little bit. So part of the fun of their scenes together this season, early on especially, is watching him slowly get up to speed and realize what's really going on with her. But if you're a big fan of those characters together, it seems pretty clear from Arya's reactions to everything that Gendry is saying during episode 1, she still cares about him a lot. It's just that the show has so much work to do during episode 1, getting through all those reunions as efficiently as possible without losing any of the dramatic payoffs you've been waiting for the past few years. All these characters have been apart. And I mean all the characters, not just Gendry and Arya. Like, they wanted it to feel like really meaningful moments with the characters. So that's why the fun of episode 1 was largely the reunion moments, with a couple really big payoffs like Jon Snow R plus L equals J. It'll be fun to see how their relationship changes as they both get to know each other a little bit better and all the changes they've gone through. Because even though Maisie Williams is still adorable and kind of looks like a child, Arya is about 17 during the events of season 8, which you'll remember is older than Sansa was when she was forced to marry Tyrion and then later Ramsay Bolton. So within the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, Arya is viewed as being an adult. It's just that because Maisie Williams has that baby face, you still think of tiny cute Arya when you look at her like she was during season 1. They even had a joke about that during her reunion with Jon Snow. How did you sneak up on me? You're so creepy and calm now, kind of like Bran. Then she says, you used to be taller. So if you're thinking about endgame for Arya, Gendry characters, I know there's lots of questions about what'll happen to them because technically Gendry does have a claim on the Iron Throne, depending on what you think happens to the other characters like Jon and Daenerys. Back when Arya was still training at the House of Black and White, then made her way back home, just based on the way the Faceless Men work in the books, George R. R. Martin made it seem like there would be consequences for Arya using her skills for her own selfish reasons. You're not allowed to go stealing faces from anyone that you want. That's why Jaqen H'ghar blinded her after she bailed on her contract to kill the merchant and instead killed Meryn Trant as revenge for the supposed death of Syrio Forel. We should say he allegedly died, even though we never saw it on screen. So if you believe that the show has abandoned any of the ideas that there are rules about stealing faces and naming names for you to kill yourself a la Arya's list, then it's totally possible for Arya and Gendry to end up together if they both survive past the finale. There's still a lot of people asking about Gendry being a Baratheon and thus another candidate for the Iron Throne, but I don't think it's going to come to that, and even if it did, nothing about what Gendry has done the past season since he's come back has made it seem like he would go against Jon Snow and Daenerys, both of whom have stronger claims as they are legitimate heirs, and Gendry is still technically a bastard. So fun fact, Game of Thrones genealogy and history, Gendry has a little Targaryen blood in him through Robert Baratheon's grandmother, whose name was Rhaella Targaryen. She was sister of Jaehaerys II. So you could make a joke that Gendry is also a secret Targaryen on Game of Thrones. Like, you're not a real character on Game of Thrones unless you're secretly somebody else. A little history on Robert's rebellion as well. Part of the reason why the realm was so ready to accept Robert Baratheon as their new king was because they accepted that he had an ancient claim on the Iron Throne via his Targaryen blood. That's how used to Targaryen rule the realm had become. He's different, but he's a change of pace from the Mad King, and that he's not trying to burn us all alive, but he's also kind of the same in a way, because he's still a little bit Targaryen. So think about it this way, should Jon Snow and Daenerys both survive the War for the Dawn in the war with Cersei this season, it's most likely that they'll get married as Varys, Davos, and Tyrion all suggested during episode 1, accept rulership of Westeros. They can then legitimize Gendry so that he can use the Baratheon name and they can give him Storm's End, which I believe as of right now is not currently occupied by any lords. We all know that Bronn still wants his castle. That's the whole reason why he's turning tail on Jaime and Tyrion, because he thinks Cersei is going to give him what he's wanted this whole time. But there are so many empty castles in Westeros right now. Highgarden is still empty. Unless Samwell goes home, Hornhill would be empty. Dragonstone technically empty unless Daenerys goes back, although usually when Targaryens sit on the Iron Throne, usually one of their brothers or sisters occupies Dragonstone. That's why they have the title Prince of Dragonstone. Like Rhaegar Targaryen was Prince of Dragonstone in the way that Prince Charles was Prince of Wales for most of his life. The last hearth has just been freshly emptied. The Carhold probably going to get emptied pretty soon too. Deepwood Mott is definitely going to be emptied shortly. Thank you very much, House Glover, for not answering the call. So there's plenty of castles to go around in the realm for anyone who survives the War for the Dawn. So let me know in the comments, though, what do you actually think is going to happen with Gendry and Arya at the end of the season? Because there was that very special scene that she had with Ned Stark during season 1 where he said, "You're going to be a lady in a castle someday, wife to a lord." And she says, "That's not me." They also paid that off when she had the reunion with Nymeria during season 7 where she said, "That's not you." So just because Gendry has come back and she's still a little bit in love with him doesn't mean that she's ready to become a lady in a castle like Sansa is the Lady of Winterfell. She still doesn't want to be like Sansa. So don't be surprised if they swerve on some sort of alternate happy ending for Gendry and Arya. And then there's the Ramsay Bolton theory of Game of Thrones. If you think this is going to be a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention. So just be prepared for a big twist on the ending to their story. But what'll happen is my episode 2 video will post tonight after the episode airs, so look out for that. And I'll name a new giveaway winner when I post the episode 3 trailer video Monday morning. While you wait for everything, click here.